Good afternoon. Welcome to the coding class, which is here. SEMlabs, which we started last time. We're starting to look at what you can do with SEMlabs coding. And I hope that you are enjoying the whole setup. Coding is what we do every day in our lives. It's not a huge word that is so difficult to understand. It's a simple things that we do every day, but we are putting them in perspective so that you can use these things in an everyday fashion. You will remember, for a small recap, that last time we mentioned that our classes are Smart Caps lessons, and they are sponsored by VT Africa Holdings, also the Basic Education Department, and other sponsors. And along the way, I'll be asking you to join me in an assessment, which you can easily reach on hellosmart.com. When you're at hellosmart.com, you'll be asked to sign up as a guest, and you can also put the ID number 598751, and that will also be prompted for you to put your name. And if you do that, then you can actually go into the session and actually interact with the material that we'll be giving in a way of assessment. So join the assessment and be smart as we continue in our coding class. So along the way, I'll also mention how you need to have this particular software in your device. Okay, so to give you a small background of what we set out to do, you remember that in SEMlabs we are talking of interactive resources that you can use to understand the world better. So SEMlabs gives you that opportunity where you can use the coding blocks, which are very handy and usable, to actually create different scenarios of the world, as well as other inventions that have not yet been discovered. So you have no limit to what you can do in SEMlabs. We mentioned that even just to light a bulb in your home, there is some things going on there. It's a program, and for you to be able to switch on the light, it's actually a program that you are part of, which is a simple coding in real life, and we are going to be lighting lives by learning more about coding. We did mention some of the things that you are going to actually harvest out of all these lessons. And you can have a look. If you're on YouTube, you can pause the video and remind yourself of all these different concepts that you are going to actually from these classes. And last time we even mentioned how an algorithm, for example, is part of computer language, but it's something that we use or we do every day. We talked of how you can make coffee using an algorithm, how you can come to school using an algorithm. It's simply a set of steps that you follow. And we will be looking at various ways to actually simulate some of the steps that you need to do in achieving objectives. So we mentioned that you can actually procure the SEMlabs kit, and it comes in various packages. So you can have different packages according to your needs. If you take the STEAM kit, and then you have different pieces inside, you also can take the Makers kit, which will include slightly varied coding blocks. You can also have the STEAM and the Makers kit or you can also just have the learn to code kit and the alpha kit and so forth. So on your kit, you have quite a variety of coding blocks that you can use. For example, I made a car with my coding block, and that is simply using the sensors, the motors, the gears, as well as the wheels. So these blocks are very handy. You can see how they are tactile. You can use them, you can touch them easily, and you can move them around. They are very solid in a way that they don't break easily. So you as learners and students, you can actually use them quite handy to program and to code different things. Here is some bit of picture of the kind of blocks you find in your kit, and you can see that with these different blocks, you can have your motor, you can have some building blocks here on your panel, and it has some sensors already put there. You can also start to put together your wheel on the motor and so forth. The creation part of it is up to you. You can make a car that looks like this. You can also attach extra objects on your vehicle and so forth. So you can do a varied kind of thing with the kits. And you see that there are more than 30 coding blocks that you can also utilize in various ways and put them in combination, and the permutations are unnumbered of things that you can do. And so you are supposed to download SemLabs or SemSpace, which is the app for SemLabs, which you will find in your app store. Most of your gadgets should be able to actually get this download from, it's a free download you can get from your Google Play, your Play Store, or whatever your app marketplace where you can get different apps. So you simply download the free app, SemLabs, and then it comes at that stage like this, then you install. When you have installed it, you can simply follow some of these steps to make sure that you start to use your app. So it's a very simple installation. And then if you have your coding kit, you bring your coding kit close to the computer, and you actually check to include or to pair this coding kit with your device. So you first switch on your coding blocks, and then you bring them close to the screen, and then you pair the two so that you can actually interact with your blocks on the device. So here is a situation where someone is actually interacting with their device. The same thing is happening with the physical block. So you can see there, whatever you are coding in your device will actually be outputted to you physically on the blocks that you are holding. So we have many options and many varied programs you can come up with in this instance. The program would look something like this, and you simply connect the wires to the different blocks and get the results. If you don't have the kit at some stage, you can simply also click on the show virtual blocks, which will allow you to still code without the physical blocks. So you actually can use this program without necessarily having the physical blocks as such by simply going to show virtual blocks. I'll be illustrating it just now when I open the application. But I want to mention at this stage that our vision is to actually solve Africa's challenges through investment and entrepreneurial future ventures using 4IR skills. We set out to make sure that we are going to provide the suite of services and products that will enable students to have a rich learning experience and attain high pass objectives. So your pass rate should actually be improved as you are doing coding and robotics, because you are answering certain questions that are always in the subconscious of learning, where you want to know, where does Pythagoras, where do I need this kind of maths? Where do I need all these things I'm learning in geography? Where do I need all these things that I'm learning in English or in your art and all that? So you put all these things, and we want to integrate coding and robotics in your curriculum to deliver a problem or project-based learning approach. So we want your learning to be more practical. And then we want students to be makers and inventors, not consumers. So we want to have a South African brand of a car, of a cell phone, of different things that we can easily make. So learners will be hands-on with our material, and there will be also gamification, which means you'll be playing and also learning in a very useful and iterative way. So the digital literacy itself will incorporate some lessons for people who are starting to learn about computers, absolute beginners. So don't be scared when we are talking of coding. You say, but I don't even know computers. You see that we include you in a very accommodative way to make sure that you understand all these basics. One of the last points I can mention is that we want to make sure that we make our program an enabler for sustainable industrialization in your communities, so that as a country we can have different approaches that are more realistic, experimental, and help with job creation. So there is a lot to learn in SEMLabs, and our coding class has some core values, things that you will be actually more encouraged to get as you learn. Some of them have to do with the 4IR, the job creation you have mentioned, being realistic and being literate in coding. We also will be dealing with equity as well as collaboration, integration, origination, which means you are creative, and then we have community economics. So those are some of the soft skills that will also come while you are doing coding. We are going to be mentioning it that coding is now a key literacy. You need to read, to write, to count, and to code from a very young age. It's not a full equation if we just end at only at read, write, and count, which we used to have. This won't allow our future leaders to be more practical with equipment, with the world, with different scenarios. So you need also have coding right from an early, and even if you are older now, coding is ageless. You can start coding at any spot, and you need to be literate in coding. So our approach in coding is going to be in this kind of continuum, which we have the beginners level, and in that we'll be learning about robotics and coding, and by that we mean that we'll be exploring what can be done with robotics. So that we'll be learning about robotics, and then we'll learn with robotics, which means we are using robotics to supplement normal processes or resources. And then in our advanced level, we'll also be learning through the use of robotics. So now we are using robotics to support new ways of teaching and learning. So it will become very interesting as we proceed. So we welcome you to that beginner stage where we are going to be having fun and a lot of understanding going along within our project-based learning. Just to give you a bit of idea on robotics, what robotics has to do, you see that robotics is actually a branch of technology that deals with the design, construction, operation, application of robotics, and is actually becoming a big aspect of the global economy today. Examples of robotics products are your traffic lights, your self-driven cars, as well as drones. So all these things are becoming more useful. And you will see that in terms of our learning, I've called robotics and coding the disruptive forces that are reshaping and redefining education for the fourth industrial revolution. So we have these forces that are going to be disrupting the normal way of thinking. We will start to think outside the box. These are the disruptive forces that will show us that we can reach further than we thought. We can go to Mars. We can go to any other planet, which humankind has never achieved. We have only managed to go to the moon, and the moon is not the limit. So robotics will actually give us a different platform to do different things. And especially for Africa and its challenges, we have greater achievements. And in that, I'm aware that there are some ICT advantages, but there are also a lot of fears. The mere mention of the word technology usually renders such a fear and anxiety in people. And what you must just realize is that technology is its usefulness and its easy of use. So if you realize these two things, the usefulness of technology and the easy of use, you can easily transform any situation into a productive situation. So technology is very useful in making life easier. We have to move from walking to distant places to using horses, and then we moved from that to now using automobiles, which are the cars, and now we are talking of even smart cars and driverless cars and so forth. So technology is making life easier as we go. You see that technology actually is now part of our global economy, our social, our scientific, and our political dimensions. And in that regard, it is such an instrumental part of our teaching, communication, and application. So we cannot ignore technology. because the workplace that learners you will be going to will be most likely incorporating technology. So even our way of learning and teaching, there are some people who think that it has become what we call obsolete. So obsolete would mean that it's kind of old-fashioned, or it has sort of lived its days. So we want to come up with methods that will allow for the Internet of Things, automated machines, intuitive social networks, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence. These may sound big words, but you are using these things in your phone, in your microwave, in your fridge. All these things, they make your gadgets to be robots. So you're using your microwave, and your microwave is actually a robot. You can tell it that today I want to cook rice, and then you just allow it to cook from there. So that's exactly how a robot works. It helps you to do certain works using a sequence of functions. You will also see that if we look at this, we'll realize that we are adding a value to the scholarship of teaching through an evidence-based contextual influence, robotics technology in education. So we want our education to have fruits right there, to know what we know, and to be able to even assess as people are building things, to know that we need help in this way. And you see that though some key theoretical models of learning have been impacted or disrupted by technology, this learning program that we have rejects that technology itself will revolutionize education and make your formal learning unnecessary. We still believe that many learners require structure and guidance through the pedagogy of well-skilled teachers. So we are in support of teachers, and we are in support of the education system as it were. We are simply putting a calculator in the class to make mathematics easier. The same way we are also putting this coding and robotics to make certain tasks easier. I will give you a bit of exposure of or history of robotics. So the word robot itself means worker or servant, and you will see that a robot, any tool that you can program to do a task. And one of the people who key in coming up with robotics issues was Asimov, who actually had 3 laws. So he says a robot will not harm or allow a human to be harmed. Also, a robot will obey human instructions unless it violates a superseding law. And thirdly, he says that a robot will protect itself unless it violates a superseding law. So all these laws are there to protect human beings and the robot itself in a way of achieving tasks that are meant to be covered. So look at the history of robots. These are some of the achievements that have gone through the years, from the industrial arms of the 1960s and 70s to the 1990s, where we're starting to have more of some automated shapes used in battle, as well as, for example, drones being used in photography and all these various uses. You might not be able to name an industry today that doesn't use robotics. As we said, even in your home, you are using robotics in some way. But why do we need robots or coding and all that? The central objective in the field is not to cause job shortages, but to create new job opportunities that were never thought of, while we reduce human responsibility for these jobs. So I've written the jobs that I picked to be answered by robotics and coding. So coding and robotics is not to take away jobs, as many people might think, but it will create new dimensions of job, and it is helping us to remove jobs that are dull, dirty, delicate, and dangerous for human beings to do. So let's try to think of some of the jobs that are dull. This would include jobs that are sort of repetitive. Let's say you're asked to count all the cars passing through some freeway or highway so that they know maybe how many traffic lights to put and so forth. It's not an easy job. You have to count each car that is passing, but that can easily be done by a robot. Dull jobs could include sorting out things and all that. There are also dirty jobs that are done by human beings, maybe cleaning the city. Such jobs can be done by robots, and when they have diseases coming to them. You might argue that what happens to the people who are doing the same jobs? It means that human beings are not necessarily meant to be doing those jobs. We should put our efforts in doing other jobs that would help to move further on. For now, yes, we need someone to clean the city and do all that, but we can have a robot doing that while the same people can be used more productively elsewhere. Also, there are delicate jobs, as you can tell, that, for example, in medical field, you can have a robot perform a heart surgery on you, and the advantage there is that it will be programmed by, for example, 5 very experienced doctors. So it means this robot is having this 5 doctors' experience in its one arm and the other arm and so forth. So it has a lot of capabilities. So some of the delicate jobs, which our human finger is too thick to touch or help, they can also be done by robots. There are also dangerous jobs that robots can be able to do, not necessarily in military situations only, but if there is a volcano in your town, you can imagine what is going to happen there. So you need scientists to know what is happening on that volcano. You cannot send an airplane or a helicopter there to check on top of the mountain what is happening with the volcano. It will be dangerous. So you can simply send a drone and to take pictures and live images of what is happening. There are different situations. For example, we had some firefighters who lost their lives trying to save other human beings in buildings. And in those scenarios, the firefighters were doing their jobs to the utmost. But if we had robots that we could send in such different situations, they wouldn't run the risk of the person who is saving the situation also being at risk himself. So the robot could simply go into the building and maybe rescue a child in that burning building without you worrying about the other life also getting lost in the process. So robots will be so instrumental in this way. I'll end by mentioning what we call the Bloom's taxonomy, in that as you learn in your everyday life, you see that you need to remember things, you need to understand things, you need to apply and to analyze, to evaluate and create. Coding in robotics actually goes with you each step, because you are understanding, you are remembering, you are evaluating, you are creating, until learners can create a product that can move, touch, talk, fly, and interact with the world. In that way, we can become inventors, not consumers of technology. Just as I promised, we also take care of absolute beginners. So here is some computer basics that you need to know, as we will be delving more deeper into our coding with SEMLabs. You need to have some basics of knowing what your computer is all about. So just on this page, I'm talking about your hardware and softwares. So the hardware are those parts of your computer that allows you to physically operate or interact with your computer. So the hardware is simple things like turning on your computer or laptop or your device, be it a tablet or cell phone. It might also mean connecting it to other things like your mouse or your printer and so forth. Some of the hardwares are listed on the picture here. You can have a printer, you can have a monitor, you can have a case, and you can have a keyboard, and you can have your mouse, your modem. All these are actually some hardware devices or components of your computer, and they are useful. So, for example, you can print images with your computer. You can also use your monitor to see the display of what you are working on your computer. The case on certain computers is where your CPU is sitting. The CPU being the central processing unit. It's like the engine of your computer where everything is functioning from. And then you have your keyboard where you can type and use it for various ways. You can also have your mouse, which you can use to move around the screen using the cursor. And you can also have your modem or router if you are on the internet, that might provide you connect. So all these are hardware, and software would be those programs or applications that you actually set out to interact with in the computer. So you cannot really touch software, but you can actually use them to give an output in various ways. For example, if you are familiar with social media like WhatsApp, it is a software. So it is Microsoft Office like Word or PowerPoint or Excel. You can also have to have some email communication like Gmail. You also need to be aware of Smart Notebook and other Smart Suite packages that we have that are very useful for learning. You can also start getting interest in coding softwares like HTML, Python, Ketchup, and so forth, which some of them will actually touch as we go. So with that in mind, I want to give you a bit of an assessment before we do our first programming on SEMLabs, where we are going to be making a program. And so just before that, we want to do a small assessment. And within that assessment, you can actually have some opinion-based questions as well, where you can also put 1 or 2 words of what you think in that scenario. So let's see how it comes up. We want to see what you can get and how you will be smart with this information that you have got. So I'm going to start the assessment in a few, and then you can simply join by going to hellosmart.com, and then you will be asked to sign in as a guest. In this case, you put your name and also an ID number that will be showing. Okay. All right. So we are connecting you then. The ID number that you can use is 598751. So that you can connect and interact with this. So those who are using their handouts, you can actually see that you have different questions here. For example, what do you think the 4th industrial revolution is all about? So you can choose what you think. Which of the following is true about the impact of the 4th industrial revolution is your question 2. Your 3rd and 4th question are opinion based. So do you think robots are helpful and significant in the future of mankind? Or do you think that robots are superficial, artificial, that will cause job shortages and other ills to mankind? Or maybe you want to actually put more information. You can do that on question 6 when you're asked the functions or uses of robots. Question 5 is simply about what you can calculate with a simple calculation to get the time a robot will take. Then SEMLabs allow you to interact with the world. So this one, you can comment from our previous lesson, as well as today, what you think. So I see that some of our learners are answering and moving quite well. So we give them a few more seconds to finish up. Okay, just another 5 seconds to answer the last part. All right, so that should be good enough. That is great. So today, one of our last aspects, we want to look at how you can actually use your inputs and outputs and even the behaviors to start to connect different programs in your smart lab space. So if you have downloaded smart your same space, you see that it comes on with the icon such as the one on the bottom of the board, and when you click on it, it will open this. This will be your first page. It will just have the create new project, and you can actually just go right there, create new project, and you will have a screen and a canvas like that. Yes, so if you manage to download your same space, you should have a canvas like this where we are going to be working on and also programming. So I'm giving this in preview so that you prepare for that small exercise when we come to it in a minute. So just to check on the questions we just did now, which I trust that everyone is finished, we want to discuss them briefly, which will also give us as a chance of a recap of what we were discussing today. So one of the questions that you were having there was that when you think of the fourth industrial revolution, what comes to your mind? Is it that machines will take everyone's job? Or is it that many jobs will be lost, but more will be created? Or we need to prepare for the disruption it will cause, or the development, or computers will become more intelligent than human beings? So I trust that you can actually choose that more jobs will be lost, but many jobs will be lost, but more will be created, because this opens up a new dimension of different jobs that we never thought of. Also, C can be a good answer. We need to prepare for the development that it will cause. So some people would think that it will be just a disruption, but it will be developments. Number two, which of the following is true about the impact of the fourth industrial revolution? And you see that with that, our answer is D. It will create new economic theories. Yes, you might say that there might be an increase in privacy and all that, but what we see as a real impact here would be the creation of the new economic theories. Your opinion is also being tested on question 3 and 4. Robots are helpful and significant in the future of mankind. What would you say? So there, we believe that they are quite helpful in the reshaping and also reuse of our time. As much as it will save us time, it will also save us to do those dirty, delicate, and dangerous jobs. Number 4, robots robots are superficial artificial beings that will cause job shortages and other ills to mankind? I don't think so. I think we can gain so much more, and we'll learn a lot using robotics, and it will make life easier. Number 5, a robot has an average speed of 4 meters per second. How long will it take the robot to travel 60 meters? So with this one, you simply have your usual distance over speed. So some people have been doing this. They know these formulas from their previous grades. So this would give the time. So that time would be simply 60 meters over, which is equals to 15. So I see that Kuda and other students, they got it correct on this one, and that's wonderful. We'll also go to the 6th question. What are the functions or uses of? So with this, you can actually put different what you think about the functions or uses. So you can, someone also answer that you can do or perform tasks safe, because we talked how the robots will do the dangerous work for us. Question 7, smart labs allows us to interact with the world. Quite true, as you shall see when we will be doing a lot of programming in our next class. So meanwhile, download smart SameSpace and start to just find your way around, and then we'll be dealing with a lot of programs that we'll do on the canvas as well as on the physical blocks. With that, I want to thank you for joining us for the coding classes, and we also want to thank our sponsors for these Smart Caps lessons, which is VT Africa Holdings, the Basic Education Department, and other sponsors. With that, I want to say have a great day. Meet you on Thursday for our coding class.